Hi everyone, good evening. This is Chef Sanjay. We're gonna do a very beautiful beef Wellington today. It has got a little bit of spice and fusion in there, and then we're gonna serve with the cauliflower puree, and we're gonna do a beautiful 10 bean ragu mix with it. So let's start cooking. So before we begin, hygiene standards have been kept into mind and refer screen for the ingredients. Okay, so let's begin with beans. So we have 10 bean mix over here. We're gonna soak them in water overnight, and then we're gonna start cooking them in a stock water. I'm using beef stock over here. And after that, once your beans are cooked, hot oil, we put garlic in there, we put some chopped chorizo, we saute it off, and right after that we add a little bit of tomatoes in there. In this scenario it's a tomato paste, and then I'm gonna add some beans, and I'm gonna keep it sort of a mushy texture, not very wet, and that's it. We can keep it aside, add a little bit of cream before we are finishing it off. That's it. Other way, now we're gonna start working on the cell. Over here I'm just gonna peel some mushrooms off. I'm gonna have some onions in there, I'm gonna have some garlic in there, and you can chop it up finely if you want to, or you can even put it in your mixer and blend it up into a fine sort of a paste. And then what we're gonna do is cook it off on a hot oil. Just let all the moisture go out of the mushrooms, and then dry it out so your pastry, it doesn't get very soggy. On the other side, we're starting working on our cauliflower puree. We're gonna keep it very basic. In some stock, we cook some cauliflower, let it there, and then start seasoning our beef nicely. We have to make sure we season both sides and we have enough seasoning on it, because it will just add up to the better flavor and taste. Let's start making on some crepes. Yes, I'm gonna have some crepes as an addition to it. So over here I have got flour, egg and milk as a mixture. We're gonna have that. I've added fennel powder to my crepe mix, which gives it a very nice flavor. So now let's sear our meat, because it has been seasoned for an hour now. And we're gonna add some olive oil, some butter, some garlic, and in hot oil, when it's quite hot, we add our beef tenderloin over there. Let it sear, have a beautiful color on one side, and then once it gets into the color, we can turn it around. We are not cooking the meat over here. We are making sure that it has got a nice sort of a glaze on outside with all those beautiful flavors. Just put some basting on it nicely, and then let it just lightly seared and not too much. We are keeping it on a high flame so the outer gets seared up nicely, and then after that we remove it. We let it rest, and when it's a little bit warm, we make sure we add some mustard to it. I'll show it to you in the next step. Over here in the same pan, what we're gonna do is add some beef stock and let it reduce down so we have a glaze. Look at this is what we were talking about. Put some mustard when your beef is hot, so the mustard goes into that beautiful texture of meat. So now what we're gonna do, crepes at the bottom, we line up with some chorizo. It's a new addition. Yes, I love that spiciness to it. And then we're gonna spread out our duxelle right on top of chorizo, and then roll it around very tightly. And then what we're gonna do is let it sit for rest for an hour, and once it's settled down a bit, we're gonna coat it into a pastry. So that's it. That's how we make sure it's quite tight. And then now we're gonna coat it down to a pastry. Just before that, that's a quick look on our cauliflower puree, how it looks. This is our pastry leveled up there. So what we're gonna do is 200 degrees, yeah, and for 20 to 25 minutes. This is for about medium sort of a steak you're gonna have there, and we let it rest now for about 15 to 20 minutes around a hot surface area, so it stays and comes down to sort of a room temperature. Meat can rest inside it, and then we're gonna start to cut it out. We cut this out and we see a beautiful texture. Make sure the piece is quite thicker in size, because if it's very thin, it just falls apart completely. And then we start plating. So we have our cauliflower puree, we have our bean ragu, we have a beautiful Wellington over here which has been done, and we have some roast carrot with it, and some mushrooms which has been cooked in the oven. For plating, I've kept cauliflower puree at the bottom. Then we have on top a bean ragu, which is topped up by mushrooms, which has been lightly cooked and in a beef broth, and then topped up with a little bit of broccoli, a sauce. So a sauce will be kind of a pan jus where its beef stock is reduced down with all the juices where we seed of our meat. Feel free to take a snapshot of all the ingredient list which are mentioned over here, and it will help you cook the recipe as it is. Thank you.